about Grand Central Station, but with a twist. A claim about a place that might not even exist.
That's right. A story centered on this idea of a hidden third level right there in Grand Central.
A place most people would say, well, doesn't exist.
Exactly. It takes this landmark everyone sort of knows or thinks they know and adds this layer of, well, impossibility.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is to unpack that narrative. We need to look at the claim itself, this hidden level, and maybe why the character in the story, Charlie, is so keen on finding it.
And then there's the really interesting part, the strange kind of proof that emerges later in the story.
Right, the evidence. Okay, let's get into it. So let's start with the core assertion. The story basically throws down a challenge right away.
Yeah, it says, you can ask the presidents of the big railroads, the New York Central, the New Haven, and Hartford.
And they'll swear on a stack of timetables.
Right, that there are only 2 levels at Grand Central.
But then you have the narrator, this guy Charlie, and he says, flat out, but I say there are 3 because I've been on the 3rd level.
Which, quite a statement. And interestingly, his first step isn't, calling the newspapers.
No, he does what seems, on the surface, pretty rational. He goes to talk to his friend, Sam Weiner.
Who happens to be a psychiatrist.
Ah, okay. So, predictably, perhaps, the psychiatrist has a theory.
Yep. Sam calls it a waking dream wish fulfillment.
A waking dream. So basically, he thinks Charlie's just imagining it, making it up.
Well, more like his subconscious is creating it for him. Sam connects it directly to the modern world, all the insecurity, the fear, war, worry,
All the stuff people want to escape from.
Exactly. He sees the 3rd level as Charlie's mind creating an escape route from all that pressure. It's not necessarily that Charlie himself is unhappy, but the world is overwhelming.
And the story mentions Charlie's wife, Louisa, got kind of mad when she heard that explanation.
You can sort of see why, right?
Ah.
Maybe feels like the friend is saying her husband's losing it or that their life isn't good enough.
Yeah. The psychiatrist's view is pretty clear, though. Stressful times lead to seeking refuge, and this 3rd level is just that refuge manifested.
But Charlie, he pushes back. He doesn't just accept it.
Right. He basically says, sure, everyone wants to escape. That's normal. But, he points out, they don't all just stumble onto a secret level at Grand Central.
It's a fair point within the story's logic. He's saying, okay, wanting to escape is one thing, but my experience was specific. It was real.
He even brings up his stamp collecting. Apparently Sam, the psychiatrist, had also labeled that a temporary refuge from reality.
But Charlie argues his grandfather started that collection, and his grandfather lived in supposedly pretty nice and peaceful times, so he didn't need refuge.
And then there's the clincher. He throws in that President Roosevelt collected stamps, too.
As if to say, see, perfectly normal hobby, not just for people trying to escape something.
It really feels like Charlie is fighting to validate his own experience, to say it wasn't just in his head.
He wants it to be tangible, something external that happened to him.
Okay, so if it wasn't just a waking dream, how does he say he actually got there? The story paints a pretty mundane picture initially.
Yeah, just an ordinary evening last summer. He'd worked late at the office, wanted to get home to Louisa.
Decided to take the subway from Grand Central, figured it'd be faster than the bus, perfectly normal start.
And then he touches on something anyone who's been in Grand Central might relate to, how easy it is to get lost.
Oh, definitely. He says he's been in and out hundreds of times, but he's always bumping into new doorways and stairs and corridors.
It is a bit of a labyrinth. He gives these examples like once ending up in the Roosevelt Hotel lobby.
After walking through some long tunnel, yeah. And another time coming out in an office building blocks away.
It establishes Grand Central as this place where you could maybe find something unexpected. He even speculates it might be growing like a tree.
Pushing out new corridors underground like roots. That's a strange image.
And here's a really interesting little detail he shares. He wonders if maybe because Grand Central has been an exit, a way of escape for so many people for so long.
Maybe that's how the tunnel he found exists, like it's built out of that collective desire for escape.
Kind of. But then he adds, quite specifically, that he never told his psychiatrist friend about that particular idea.
Why hold that back?
Maybe because it sounds too much like what Sam was suggesting. Too close to admitting it is an escape, just a real one.
Could be. So anyway, he finds the specific corridor. It starts angling left, slanting down. He says it felt wrong, but he kept going.
Just the empty sound of his own footsteps, nobody else around, gives it that eerie, off-the-map feeling.
Then the sound changes. He hears this hollow roar ahead, meaning open space, people talking.
The tunnel turns sharply left. He goes down a short flight of stairs, and bam, He claims he's on the 3rd level.
So he steps out, and at first he thinks maybe he just got turned around and ended up back on the 2nd level.
But things look different. He notices the room is smaller, fewer ticket windows, fewer gates.
And the information booth in the middle, it's made of wood, looks really old-fashioned.
The man working there has a green eye shade on, long black sleeve protectors, details straight out of another time.
And the lighting, that's a big one. He says it was a dim, sort of flickering.
And he realizes why.
Yeah.
They're open flame gas lights.
Wow, okay. That immediately signals you're not in the modern Grand Central anymore.
Definitely. Plus, brass spittoons on the floor. Just adds to that whole 19th century vibe.
But the people are the real giveaway for him. That's how he knows the time period.
Right. He sees a guy pull a gold watch from his vest pocket, wearing a derby hat, a black 4-button suit with these tiny lapels.
And a big black handlebar mustache. Can't miss that.
And a woman nearby has a dress with those leg of mutton sleeves and skirts down to her high-button shoes.
He just says he had never saw so many beards, sideburns, and fancy mustaches in his life. Everyone looked like they stepped out of 1890-something.
Even the train he glimpses on the tracks fits the picture. A tiny little locomotive, like a Currier and Ives print, with a funnel-shaped stack.
But the absolute confirmation, the thing that locks it down to a specific date, comes from a newsboy.
He glances at the stack of papers the boy has. The masthead reads, "The World."
A newspaper that, as Charlie notes, hasn't been published for years in his time.
And the main story is about President Cleveland.
And this isn't just a vague impression. Charlie says later he actually went to the public library files and found that exact front page, dated June 11th, 1894.
It's these concrete, checkable details woven into the fantasy that make the story work, isn't it? It grounds the impossible claim.
Absolutely. So, okay, he's standing there, convinced it's 1894. What does he want to do?
He knows immediately. He wants to buy tickets, 2 tickets to Galesburg, Illinois. For him and Louisa, presumably.
Galesburg, Illinois, in 1894. Why there?
The story paints this really idyllic picture of Galesburg back then. Charlie remembers it or imagines it as wonderful town still.
Big old frame houses, huge lawns.
Tremendous trees meeting overhead, roofing the streets. It sounds lovely.
And the description really leans into the peace and quiet of it all. Summer evenings in 1894, Galesburg were supposedly twice as long.
People just sitting out on their lawns, men smoking cigars, talking quietly, women waving palm leaf fans.
Fireflies all around. In a peaceful world, that's the key phrase.
It's pure escape, isn't it? Getting away from the world Sam, the psychiatrist, talked about. He specifically mentions the First World War is still 20 years off.
And World War II is over 40 years in the future. He wants that peace.
So goal identified. Get tickets to 1894 Galesburg. He goes up to the ticket window.
The clerk calculates the fare. He apparently glances at Charlie's modern hatband but doesn't say anything yet. Charlie figures he has enough cash for 2 coach tickets.
But then comes the snag, the reality check.
Yeah, he pulls out his money, his modern bills.
And the clerk just stares at him, then says, "That ain't money, mister."
And if you're trying to skin me, you won't get very far.
The clerk even looks down at his cash drawer, like he's ready for trouble. And the story explains the problem. The old-style bills in 1894 were apparently bigger, like half again as big, and just looked totally different.
So Charlie's modern money is instantly recognizable as fake, or at least wrong.
Right. And faced with being accused of fraud, maybe even getting arrested.
He does the sensible thing. He says he turned away and got out fast.
Can't blame him. As he puts it, there's nothing nice about jail, even in 1894.
So he retreats. He found the place, but he couldn't complete the transaction. Couldn't buy his escape yet.
But this seems to solidify his belief, not shake it. Because the very next day, what does he do?
He goes straight to the bank, draws out $300, which he notes was nearly all we had.
Wow.
Yeah, a big deal. And he takes that money to a coin dealer.
To buy old-style currency. The money he needs for 1894.
Right. And he $200 in the old bills.
That's serious commitment. He's literally investing his savings in this belief.
And as you might expect, this action really worried his psychiatrist friend, Sam.
Well, yeah. From Sam's perspective, this has gone beyond just talking about a fancy. Now Charlie's spending actual money on it. It looks like the delusion is deepening.
Charlie does add a little justification, though, pointing out how cheap things were back then, like eggs for 13 cents a dozen. So maybe that $200 would go further.
Maybe. But here's the frustrating part for Charlie. He's got the right money now.
But he says he never again found the corridor that leads to the third level at Grand Central Station, although I've tried often enough.
So the doorway, the portal, it's gone. Or hidden again.
Seems like it. And his wife, Louisa, she was pretty worried when he kept searching. She asked him to stop.
Understandable.
So he did for a while, went back to his stamp, collecting that temporary refuge.
But then, story shifts again. He says now both he and Louisa are searching for the third level together. Every weekend.
What changed? Why is Louisa suddenly on board?
Because Charlie says they now have proof that the third level is still there.
Proof? What kind of proof?
Well, it involves his friend, Sam Weiner.
The psychiatrist.
The very same. Sam apparently disappeared. Poof. Gone.
Vanished. Where'd he go?
Nobody knew. But Charlie says he sort of suspected where Sam might have ended up.
Why?
Because Sam was always a city boy. But Charlie used to tell him all about Galesburg, you know, how peaceful it was back in the day. And Sam always said he liked the sound of the place.
So Charlie thinks Sam went to Galesburg.
Charlie's convinced of it. He states it flatly. And that's where he is, all right, in 1894.
Okay, but thinking Sam went there is one thing. What's the proof that convinced Louisa?
It came from the stamp collection. Charlie was going through his oldest stamps, his grandfather's stuff.
And he found something odd.
He found a first-day cover that he says shouldn't have been there.
Okay, remind us quickly a first-day cover is.
Right, so when a new stamp comes out, collectors buy it on day one, stick it on an envelope, and mail it to themselves. The postmark proves the date it was mailed. First day of issue. Usually just blank paper inside, you never open it.
Got it. So what was weird about this one?
Well, for starters, it was mailed to his grandfather at his home address in Galesburg.
Okay.
And the postmark wasn't recent. It showed July 18th, 1894.
1894. So this envelope had apparently been sitting in his grandfather's collection, then his collection since that date.
Exactly. It had the address, the 1894 postmark. The stamp itself was a 6-cent dull brown one. Picture of President Garfield. Charlie doesn't remember ever seeing it before.
So it arrives in the mail back in 1894, goes into Granddad's collection.
And stays there, unopened, until Charlie finds it now and decides to, well, open it.
And it wasn't blank paper inside, was it?
Nope, it was a note addressed to Charlie.
A note from 1894.
That's what it looked like. Dated July 18th, 1894, from an address in Galesburg, Illinois, 941 Willard Street, and signed.
Let me guess, signed Sam,
Signed Sam.
the psychiatrist.
Okay,
Okay, what did the note say? This is the core proof, right?
This is it. According to the story, the note basically says, Charlie, I started wishing you were right about that third level. Then I started believing you were right.
Huh?
And Charlie, it's true. I found the third level.
Wow. So Sam claims he found it too.
Found it and used it. He says he's been in 1894 Galesburg for 2 weeks already when he's writing this.
And what's it like, does he say?
Oh, yeah. He paints that same peaceful picture. Says right then, down the street, someone's playing piano at the Daly's place. People are out on the porch singing, seeing Nellie home.
Sounds idyllic.
And he says he's been invited over for lemonade. Just fits that whole peaceful, neighborly vibe.
And does he mention Charlie?
He does. He urges Charlie and Louisa, come on back. Keep looking till you find the third level. It's worth it, believe me.
So the psychiatrist who dismissed it as a delusion is now sending confirmation from the past and telling them to join him.
Exactly. It completely flips the script.
Is there any other corroborating detail?
Just one more piece Charlie finds out later. He checks back with that stamp and coin store where he bought his old money.
Yeah.
And learns that Sam had been there too. Sam bought $800 worth of old-style currency.
$800. That's quite a bit more than Charlie managed. That suggests the plan.
Charlie thinks so too. He figures Sam planned to use that money to set himself up in business. Maybe a nice little hay, feed, and grain business. Something Sam apparently always wished he could do.
Another escape, maybe, from his modern life and profession?
And the story adds that the little final touch, Sam certainly can't go back to his old business.
Being a psychiatrist.
Not in Galesburg, Illinois in 1894.
Yeah, probably not much call for Freudian analysis back then. It's such an ironic twist, isn't it?
It really is. Sam, the voice of reason, the one offering the psychological explanation for Charlie's escape, seems to have taken the escape route himself.
And in doing so, he provides Charlie, and maybe the reader, with the most compelling evidence within the story that the third level is real.
It forces you to question everything. Was Sam right initially? Was Charlie delusional? Or did Sam somehow find proof, follow Charlie, and confirm it? Is the escape real? Or is the proof just another layer of the delusion?
The story plays brilliantly with that tension. You've got the very rational modern explanation, waking dream, wish fulfillment, escape from anxiety.
And then you have these tangible, almost mundane proofs. The newspaper date confirmed in the library, the different size currency, the first day cover mailed in 1894 with a note inside, Sam's disappearance, Sam buying the old money.
How do you reconcile those? It really pushes you to think about belief, reality, and how we process things that don't fit our normal understanding.
And it definitely taps into that desire for escape, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That yearning for a simpler, maybe imaginary past.
Yeah.
Galesburg 1894 becomes this symbol of peace.
It makes you reflect, personally. Where do you seek refuge when the modern world feels like too much? What's your equivalent of stamp collecting, or maybe even dreaming of a third level?
It's a really good question. We all have those mechanisms, I think.
So this deep dive took us on quite a journey. From skepticism in a psychiatrist's office down a hidden corridor in Grand Central.
Onto a gaslit platform in 1894, and finally to this mysterious letter arriving via a time-traveling envelope, seemingly confirming the impossible.
If we take the story at its word, if Sam did find the third level and sent that note, what does that imply? Not just for Charlie and Louise's search, but could that kind of escape, that kind of reality-bending possibility exist in some form?
And here's a final thought to leave you with, pulled straight from the story's premise. The psychiatrist initially called Charlie's stamp collecting, and maybe the third level itself, a temporary refuge from reality. What happens when that temporary refuge becomes someone else's permanent destination, their new reality? What does that transformation mean?